day to all my self-care family and friends. Welcome back to the Room2Breathe Podcast. I am your host, Life Coach 614, and I am so happy that you made space to be here with us today. Now, before we get into this episode, do me a quick favor. If you're feeling the vibes, go ahead and show us some love. Tap the screen, like, comment, but most importantly, share this out with someone who may need a little healing energy today. And if this is your first time here or you haven't already done so, be sure to hit that follow button. Subscribe to our channel so that way you're always tapped in when a new episode drops. I also want to personally invite you to check out our digital home at theselfcareclub.org, where you will find everything from affirmative apparel to motivational merch and a bunch of free resources to help nourish your growth and remind you that you are supported every step of the way. Just know that you don't have to do this alone. We're healing in a community, growing one breath, one moment, one day at a time. So today, I encourage you to give yourself permission to pause, to reflect, and to make space for peace, for growth, but most importantly for you. And remember, if anything in this episode hits home, be sure to drop a green heart in the chat. It's our community's way of saying that I'm healing, I am growing, and I'm showing up for me. Now, let's get ready to breathe, reflect, and grow together. Today, I wanted to talk about something that I just feel would hit home with everybody. And I was kind of wondering, like, okay, you know, what energy we gonna bring into? And for some reason, I just kept seeing the blueprint over and over again. And you know, and seeing that, it just was kind of a reminder to me that I'm not the backup plan. I'm the blueprint. And you know, I was just thinking like, okay, you know, when thinking about that means, you know, I have to take back my power. In order for me to remain the blueprint, I have to, you know, like I said, reclaim my power and my purpose. And so that's just the topic that I wanted to have today. Because I really thought that it was a space that we could use. You know what I mean? Like a conversation that we can use. And, you know, let's be real for a second. Some of us have spent years shrinking ourselves into these supporting roles, right? And stories that were never meant for us to star in. It's like we've been playing the background for so long that we forget that we are the main characters in our own stories. It's like we become the helper, the cheerleader, the behind the scenes backbone, believing that being needed was the same as being seen. And so over the years, we've convinced ourselves that holding everyone else together was holy work, even if it meant that we were quietly falling apart. And it is easy to lose yourself when your gift is service, right? It's easy to confuse being dependable with being disposable, to show up for everyone else while your own dreams sit in the dark, collecting dust. But the truth of the matter is you were never the backup plan. Welcome in, Christian. You were never the backup plan. You were the blueprint. And when I say you're the blueprint, I'm talking about you're the original design, the divine draft, the idea that came straight from God's imagination. You weren't created to be, you know, the plan B in somebody else's vision. You are the vision. You are the plan, the purpose, the proof that God doesn't, you know, make extras, only originals. And so somewhere along the line, you know, life, love, loyalty, I think that it made us forget that. You know, so often we get so invested in what other people are building that we abandon our own construction site. You help other people lay their foundation while your dreams sit unfinished. Welcome in, Brooke. You became the bridge instead of the destination. But it's time to stop standing in the background of blueprints that you designed and step back into the authority of your own. Today's episode is for the ones who forgot their magic while they were helping other people to manifest theirs. For the ones who have clapped so hard for other people that they lost their voice cheering, only to realize that they have yet to even speak life over their own dreams. Today, we are reclaiming our power. We are, taking our light off dim and putting it back where it belongs in center stage. Because, being humble doesn't mean hiding. And being helpful doesn't mean that you have to disappear. I want this episode to be your reminder that you are not optional. You are ordained. You are not the backup plan. You are the blueprint. You ever notice how easy it is to disappear in plain sight? It's like you're there for everybody. You pick up the phone, you show up to all the events, you pray the prayers, you write the plans, you give advice, and still somehow nobody sees you. When you become everybody else's constant, they stop checking in, right? They stop checking to see if you're okay. They stop asking if you're tired, if you're fulfilled, if you even want to keep showing up in that same way. And truth is, most days we don't, right? We don't even want to be the strong friend. You've just been running on loyalty, trying to convince yourself that being needed is the same as being nurtured. But I feel like God is whispering that He didn't anoint you to assist forever. He anointed you to ascend. What parts of you have you put on hold so everyone else can move forward? I want you to sit with that for just a second. What parts of you have you put on hold so everyone else could move forward? And again, this isn't about shame. This is about awareness. It's like, I don't know, you ever wake up one day and realize that you've been living your whole life in support mode? It's like for years you've been the dependable one. The one who holds it all together, who knows where everything is, who remembers everybody's birthdays, all the deadlines, other people's dreams better than you can even remember your own. You've been the one making sure that everybody else succeeds, that everyone else heals, that they shine. But when it's your turn, silence. Crickets. Welcome in, butterfly. It's Raylan, welcome in. It's like you've been making sure that everyone else succeeds. But when it's your turn, the room is empty. And it always starts off innocent, right? You help because you care. You show up because it's who you are. But slowly the I got you starts turning into the I forgot me. It's like you get addicted to being, the reliable one because it gives you a sense of worth. But I think that the truth that nobody wants to say out loud is being the strong one becomes a trap when strength is the only version of you that people expect to see. And, when you've been the backup for so long, you start to believe it. you start questioning your dreams as, do they even matter anymore? You start convincing yourself that maybe you were never meant to lead, that you were just meant to lift people up, that you were just here to elevate other people. And if that's you, I need you to hear me when I say you were not created to be the background music in somebody else's breakthrough. You are the main melody, the one that sets the tone. So if you've ever found yourself downplaying your own light just to make other people comfortable, this is your reminder that God didn't call you to be the applause behind somebody else's purpose. He's calling you to build your own. And let me tell you something about being the backup. Backups are built to protect, not to replace. Okay? They hold space until the original returns. So when you keep playing the background in your own life, you're living on a spiritual glitch, running someone else's version of your own vision. And that's why you feel so disconnected and drained and discontent, because your spirit knows that this ain't your final draft. You've been serving as a foundation for other people's dreams, but you were called to design your own. And I know that it is scary to step forward when you've gotten so comfortable to being behind the scenes, right? Being that behind the scene miracle worker. But there's a difference between being supportive and being stuck. Courier chick, welcome in. I want you to just take a second and ask yourself, am I serving out of alignment or out of obligation? Am I helping because it's my heart or because I'm in my hiding place? Because again, when you've been the backup for so long, even your brilliance starts to sound like background noise. And the only way to change that is to remember what you were originally built to do. I want you to reclaim, that one thing that you've abandoned while helping other people. Take the opportunity to write it down. Say it out loud. Maybe it's a song that you started or a business that you stopped. Maybe it's a boundary that you broke. But whatever it is, I want you to take the time this week to reclaim that thing. Go back, pick it up. Because the moment you start choosing yourself again, you stop being the backup and you start becoming the blueprint that you were always designed to be. And let's talk about what I like to call the curse of the quiet genius. Welcome in, Tanika. Right? There's this thing that I call the curse of the quiet genius. And you know who you are. I'm not going to point no fingers. You know who you are. Right? The visionary who stays silent. The gifted one who plays small. The thinker. The dreamer, the creative, the one with all the notebooks full of brilliance that nobody else gets to see. You've got all of these divine downloads straight from God just sitting in drafts. You've got ideas that could shift atmospheres, but you second guess them, before they even see the light of day. Because somewhere along the way, you learn that speaking up could make people uncomfortable. You learn that shining too bright could lead to other people feeling small. And because of that, you taught yourself to shrink, to dim your light. That's the curse of the quiet genius. It's like deep inside, you were built for more, but you've been conditioned to believe that being visible means being vain. And I get it. We were raised on humility, not healing. We were told, don't brag, don't make it about you. But what if acknowledging your gift isn't arrogance? What if it's agreement with God's plan? It's like you were never meant to hide your light just to keep the room comfortable. Light was never, designed to apologize for showing up. It was designed to reveal. And listen, I know what it's like to silence yourself because you don't want to ruffle any feathers. Thank you. Right? I know what it's like to stay quiet in meetings because you're afraid to sound like too much. Right? You don't want to be extra. You hold back your creativity because you don't want to outshine somebody else that you love, somebody else that you care about. But if that person was really aligned with you, your light wouldn't offend them. It would inspire them. The people who are meant for you will never fear your fullness. It's time for us to understand that we don't have to shrink to be supported. You don't have to silence yourself to be safe. And you don't have to play small to be seen by the right people. You've been quiet long enough. You've been in helping mode for so long that your own voice starts to feel foreign to your tongue. But it's time to use it again. And here's the thing about a genius. It's loud. It's undeniable. Focus mental health. Welcome in. Right? And when you finally start walking in your brilliance, you give other people permission to believe that they can do it too. And so I want you to find, just go find one idea, one dream, one project that you have been sitting on. Thank you. Don't overthink it. Just bring it back to life. Breathe life into it. I want you to post the thing, write the thing, record the thing, whatever it is, right? Stop letting perfection be the prison that keeps your purpose on pause. You don't need to be loud to be legendary. You just have to be obedient. You just got to show up. And, you're not too late. I think that we reach a certain age and all of a sudden we feel like we're too late. We're too old to do this. But you're not too late. You're not too much. You're not too behind. You are right on time for your own becoming. And speaking of becoming, let's talk about, all the foundations that you've built for other people while forgetting that you laid them in the first place. Right? Let's go ahead and talk about something else that hits close to home. Those foundations that you've built for, other people. And, now they live, like it built itself, right? And I know y'all know what I mean, right? The job that you started that others now thrive in. The project that you birthed that someone else is now managing. Or what about the relationship that you poured into that they now call peaceful after you taught them what love and boundaries actually look like? See, you've laid the bricks in places where your name was never written on the wall. You've built bridges that other people cross with confidence without ever acknowledging the hands that held them steady. And yeah, I know that hurts because it's painful to see other people standing tall on the ground that you leveled, right? To watch someone else take the stage that you helped them build. But that doesn't make you disposable. It just means that you were divinely assigned. Because sometimes God sends you to start something, not to stay with it. He just wants you to be the spark. Right? Because you were the blueprint, not the backup. You were the foundation, not the filler. You were never just helping out. You were helping to birth destiny. And while they may have forgotten, heaven didn't. See, God keeps receipts. I ain't the only one, y'all. Okay? He keeps receipts. Every seed that you've ever planted, every plan that you've ever built, every tear that you've ever cried while constructing something that wasn't even for you, it is all accounted for. You've been faithful in the background long enough. And now God is saying it's time for you to build something of your own. Because, the foundation you forgot you laid was never the end of the story. It was the evidence that you are equipped for greater things all along. You didn't lose your position, you graduated from it. So stop mourning what you were meant to move on from, right? You were always meant to move on from that job, that friendship, that role. It was never rejection. It was a redirection. God was just saying that you've proven that you can build. Now I want to see what you can do with your own blueprint. And how many times have you underestimated yourself because your name wasn't on the outcome? Like, how many times have you mistaken someone else's platform as proof that you weren't qualified to have your own? Sometimes the reason that they succeeded is because you showed them how. You were their example, their lesson, their light. And that doesn't mean that you miss your moment. You just made theirs possible. And there's nothing wrong with that. But in this next season, it's not about what you can build for others. It's about what you can build through obedience for yourself. This week, I want you to honor every foundation you've ever laid. Write them down, not to boast, but to bear witness to all the beautiful things that you helped build. Because sometimes seeing all of the things that you've built reminds you that you are still capable. It reminds you that you are the blueprint, the original design. And it is time for you to start constructing what you were called to create. You've been the builder. You've been the backbone. But now it's time for you to be the face of truth. Thank you. Right? It is time for you to face the truth that sometimes helping becomes hiding. Right? Let's go ahead and talk about that helping. Right? The helping that hurts. The kind that looks selfless on the surface, but underneath it's just survival mode. Because some of us don't help just because we're kind. We help because we've been conditioned to. We've learned very early on that, being useful keeps us safe. That being needed meant that we wouldn't be abandoned. So over the years, we've overgiven, overcommitted, overperformed, all while under healing. We've been so busy being there for everybody else that we stopped asking, who is here for me? It's easy to hide behind helping other people because it feels holy. It feels like purpose. And you get praised for it. She says, stop talking about me. Ooh. Right? It feels like purpose. You get praised for it. People are always saying, ooh, girl, you so strong. Welcome in, Shonda. You always there. You such a blessing. And don't get me wrong. Sometimes that's true. But other times that's just camouflage. Because if I'm helping you, I don't have to sit still with me. It's like if I'm fixing your mess, I can avoid my own. If I'm busy pouring into you, I don't have to face the parts of me that feel empty. See, the thing about hiding and helping is that it feels productive. Right? but it's actually more protective. It protects you from your own reflection because facing yourself requires honesty, and honesty requires healing. But God can't heal what you keep disguising as duty. Not you need a new pair of shoes every episode. I mean, it's all out of love, right? You got to ask yourself, are you truly being called to help? Or are you avoiding, being held accountable for your own growth? There is a difference in being helpful and being hooked on helping. One comes from love, the other comes from fear. And fear will have you filling everybody else's cup up so you don't have to acknowledge that yours has been empty for years. And, I'll tell you something. I had to learn that the hard way. I had to learn that you don't have to earn your belonging through service. You don't have to overextend to prove your worth. You don't have to break yourself to keep other people whole. Yes, it's beautiful to have a giving heart. But even givers need grace. Even healers need healing. Even the one who helps needs a hand sometimes. And if nobody told you lately, you are worthy of rest, even when there's work left to do. You are worthy of love, even when you're not fixing something for someone else. You are worthy of being seen, even when you're not saving somebody. Because being the helper was never meant to become your hiding place. Sometimes the noise of constant helping is how we drown out the whispers of what it is we really need. So this week, instead of trying to rescue somebody else, rescue yourself. Let somebody else carry their own lesson while you finally start, carrying your own healing. Because peace doesn't come from helping more. It comes from hiding less. You've spent enough time blending into other people's blueprints. Now it's time for you to remember what God drafted specifically for you. I want to talk about what happens when you finally stop outsourcing your obedience. Welcome in, KO. Right? When you stop outsourcing your obedience and you start owning your assignment. Now, I'm going to warn y'all, this part might sting just a little bit. Because for a lot of us, God already gave us the assignment. We just keep asking other people how to do it. Right? We call it research. Who can be honest and say they still researching the assignment? Right? Because we call it confirmation. I'm waiting for confirmation. Or I'm waiting on the collaboration. Right? But deep down, it ain't nothing but hesitation. Right? It's fear dressed up as faith. God whispers something to you quietly, and instead of moving on it, right, you've managed it. You sent it to the group chats and you still waiting on approval. You waited for a sign that, looked like validation. You said, let me just make sure I'm ready. I'm not ready for this. When the real you is just scared to start, right? You're just scared to get it going. But here's the thing. God is not going to repeat himself when you've already heard him. If he told you to start the business, start it. If he told you to write the book, write it. If he told you to forgive, to release, to rest, do it. You don't need a committee when you've already received your clarity. You've already received your assignment. Do it. Because sometimes, the reason that you feel stuck isn't because you don't have direction. It's because you've outsourced your obedience. You've handed your calling to people who were never equipped to carry it. You keep asking people who have never built what you're building how you should build it. You've handed your calling to people who have no idea what to do with it. And then you wonder why it doesn't fit. You can't expect divine results from secondhand instructions. You can't, fulfill a firsthand calling through somebody else's blueprint. What God gave you wasn't a suggestion, it was a strategy. And every single time you delay it, the dream decays just a little bit more. So when you say, I'm waiting for God, sometimes He's actually waiting for you. Waiting on you to trust what He already told you in the quiet. Waiting on you to believe the same God who gave you the vision will also give you the capacity to carry it. And I know that it can be scary to step out on something that doesn't quite make sense to anybody else. But obedience rarely comes with applause. It comes with an audience of one who is simply watching to see if you'll move even when no one else understands why. Stop asking people for permission to build what God already approved. Stop looking for validation from those who can't see your vision. Stop confusing comfort with confirmation. You don't need other people to agree. You just need to align. Because when you finally stop outsourcing your obedience, you start to see the overflow. You've been seeking permission when all along you were the one holding the plan. And once you realize that, you start to see why everything that you've been building for others has been draining you. It's simply because you can't be everybody's builder and expect to have your own stand. You can't keep building everybody else's dream and expect your own foundation not to crack. You can't hold everybody else up and then wonder why your own walls are collapsing around you. That's not loyalty, it is leakage. And some of us are walking around spiritually waterlogged because we've been pouring in every project, every person, every problem without realizing we're leaking at the seams. You're holding up so many people that you don't even realize that you've been building on borrowed energy. You have robbed Peter and paid Paul so many times that I done lost count. And when you sit back, you ask, why do I feel so tired? Why do I feel so disconnected? Why all of a sudden am I so resentful? That's because you've been building in burnout. And there is nothing holy about hustling yourself into emptiness. You can't keep mistaking over-functioning for faithfulness. God doesn't need you to prove your worth through your performance. He just needs you to protect your worth with your presence. You were never meant to be the backbone for every broken thing. You were called to build what was yours, not hold together what, was never meant for you to carry. And I can tell you something from experience. There was a season when I was showing up for everybody. I was helping everybody launch businesses, write books, start podcasts. I did any and everything in my power to help birth their vision. Y'all, I was the plug, the planner, the prayer warrior, the person that everybody called when they needed clarity, when they needed confirmation. But when I looked up, my own projects were collecting dust. And one day God said, how you gonna build my kingdom and neglect the corner I assigned to you? Yeah, y'all talking about ouch? That hit hard. Because I think that's what so many of us do. We hide behind being the helper, the leader, the one who serves. But even servants need seasons of stewardship for themselves. Every time you say yes to what's not yours, you're saying no to what is yours. Every single time you pour, when you haven't refilled, you're teaching others that your energy is endless, and it's not. You can love people deeply and still say, I can't do that right now. I don't have the capacity for that right now. You can support someone's vision without sacrificing your sanity. You can be there for them, but not at the expense of abandoning you. Our boundaries are not betrayal. They're our blueprint protection. You've got to understand that you can't keep pouring concrete for everyone else's dream and then wonder why your house is sinking. Welcome in, Sweet Pea. It's not them, you know, it's not that you're failing them. It just means that you've got to finally start choosing you. You don't owe anyone access that costs you your alignment. You don't owe anyone consistency that comes at the expense of your own calling. So again, you've been the builder, the fixer, the foundation for others long enough. Now it's time for you to redirect your energy back to your own walls, because what you're building matters too. So you've got to take inventory. You've got to reassess, where you are leaking energy. Whose loads are you carrying that you were never even called to lift? What needs to crumble so that what you're building can finally stand? You've built enough altars for everyone else's dreams. Now it's time for you to lay out your own blueprint. And remember, he never called you to be a copy. He called you to create something new, something original. Right? You've got to understand that the blueprint was never a mistake. And this part may really release the weight off of your shoulders. Right? If you just embrace the idea that the blueprint was never a mistake. You may have drifted. You may have delayed. You may have detoured into jobs, relationships, and responsibilities that had nothing to do with your original plan. But the blueprint itself, the one God drafted with your name on it before you were ever born, that blueprint is still intact. You didn't ruin it. You may have ran from it for a little while, but that's okay. Because here's what I've learned about God. He doesn't tear up, your plans when you take a wrong turn. He just reroutes your route, right? It's a little redirection. He recalculates your path back to your purpose. And so you might feel like you've wasted years helping other people, right? Giving them the best that you got, your best energy, in the wrong places, or maybe you stayed in rooms that didn't honor your voice. But God still says, I can use you. Every detour you've experienced is data. Every delay is direction. Every heartbreak is a lesson written in invisible ink. All the things that tried to break you were really just bending you into shape. The silence, that was your training ground. The rejection was your redirection. That setback was really just the setup for your comeback. You're not behind. You're just being built. And sometimes the very reason that God allows detours is because he's showing you how strong your foundation really is. Right? You've been tested, not to prove your weakness, but to prepare you for the weight of what's coming next. And I know that it can be hard to see that while you're in it, right? When you're in the thick of it, it's hard to see all of that. When you're rebuilding from scratch, when you're starting over, right? When you're questioning if it's too late, did I wait too long? But I don't know. I don't believe that God recycles people. I think that he resurrects purpose. Every idea, every dream, every unfinished thing that you keep pushing, to the back of your mind, I think God is calling us to just bring it back. It's still good. Your blueprint is not outdated. Your calling didn't expire. And your purpose doesn't have an age limit. You're not just being called to remember your design. You're being asked to trust in it again. You don't have to see the whole staircase to start building the first step. So I encourage you to dust that dream off. Revisit the plan, rewrite the outline, reignite that fire. Because when you start believing that your blueprint was never a mistake, you stop asking for permission to build it. You are not behind. You are being built. And the detours along the way, they're not going to destroy your destiny. They're just going to deepen the design. And once we begin to remember the plan, we've got to protect it. Because, a builder without boundaries builds in vain. And so we've got to also start to look at our boundaries as blueprints too. Right? Stop sugarcoating it. Understand that you can build peace while you cannot build peace while letting chaos, keep walking in and out the door. You can't say you want alignment when you keep entertaining what God has already told you to avoid. Boundaries are not just about protection. They're about preservation. They're not fences of fear. They are frameworks of faith. No fear, no doubt. Welcome in. Right? They remind people and you that what's inside this temple, this body, is sacred. You can't say I'm healing and then still keep open access to the same energy that broke you in the first place. What's up, but will you? Welcome in, bro. Hey, DJ. Some of us are out here praying for peace, but refusing to block what's disturbing it. You say, God, protect my purpose. But he's saying, I already did. And you just keep letting these people back in after I've escorted them out. You keep welcoming in every single thing that I removed. You're just re-inviting it back in. Boundaries are not disrespect. They are discernment. And you know what? If somebody else gets offended by your boundaries, it's usually because they benefit more from you when you don't have them. You ever notice how the moment you start saying no, people suddenly act like you've changed? Right? You just stopped volunteering for your own exhaustion. You stopped showing up for chaos disguised as commitment. You stopped bending so far backward, right? That you had just forgotten what standing tall actually felt like. But you've got to understand that boundaries don't make you cold. They make you clear. They make your peace predictable. And yeah, I know that some of us were never even taught boundaries. We were taught burnout. We were raised to keep the family together, keep the peace, keep showing up. And by the time we learned to keep ourselves, right? By the time we learned that, it started feeling like rebellion. But choosing yourself is not rebellion. It is resurrection. You're bringing back, the you that's been buried under everybody else's expectations for years. So, it is time for us to stand up and say, I'm not rude. I'm simply restricted. I've outgrown unlimited access. Right? I'm very intentional about who gets to experience me now. Because when you start setting boundaries, you'll start to expose who's been feeding off of your free labor, your emotional labor, your spiritual labor. And once you stop running on empty, you'll start to notice who only came around to refill from your overflow. And yeah, that hurts, right? When you first start to recognize the people who were just taking and taking, you're going to lose some people who were only loyal to your availability, not your authenticity. But at the same time, you gain peace, presence, power. You gain the ability to finally focus on building instead of constantly cleaning up debris. We say it all the time. Healing ain't cute. It's costly. And sometimes the price of peace is distance. So don't let their guilt trick you into reopening what grace has already closed. I'm going to tell you every single day that boundaries aren't punishment. Welcome in, the vegan healer, right? Boundaries are protection for your purpose. And when you stop apologizing for the fences that God told you to build, you start creating space for the garden to actually grow. You are allowed to be unavailable. It's okay. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to choose you without shame. Remember, boundaries don't block blessings. They filter the access. And once you start filtering your access, something wild happens. It's like you finally have the energy left over for the things that feed your soul. You stop surviving and you start building from overflow. All right? And, we have to learn to balance support and self without guilt, fear, or overcorrection. Support has become a full-time job that nobody is paying us for, right? It's that free job. We show up to every event. We repost every win. We send every "you got this" text. And then we collapse at night wondering why we feel unseen. Because somewhere along the line, we forgot that support, was supposed to be shared. It's supposed to flow both ways, not drain one person dry while everyone else is drinking. You can clap for other people without killing your own momentum. You can show love without self-abandonment. And you can stand behind somebody else's vision without stepping out on your own. You're not going to forget what you're building just because you're congratulating someone else for what they've built. Because support doesn't require self-sacrifice. It requires self-awareness. You ever notice how some people love you as long as you're their cheerleader, but they fall silent when it's your turn to shine? It's like the energy changes, the texts slow down, the "I'm proud of you" gets quiet. And that's when you learn that some folks only know how to love you when you're in your serving season. But this season, you're not just serving. You're soaring, right? You're elevating. And the people who are meant for you, they won't be intimidated by your elevation. They'll actually be inspired by it. You know, a healthy community doesn't compete. It complements, right? If your light makes somebody else uncomfortable, that's not your cue to dim the light. It's their cue to heal, right? Support is not supposed to feel like servitude. If every single connection leaves you tired, you're not in a community, you're in captivity. You're trapped, right? You can love people deeply and still have limits. You can hold space for others and still hold some for yourself. Because the version of you that never rests, that never says no, that never misses a beat, that version of you is not sustainable. And you know, if we're keeping it real, when you give out of depletion, even your good intentions come out distorted. That's how resentment grows. That's how helpers turn bitter. That's how healers start snapping on the people that they were called to serve. So again, let this be your reminder that you deserve reciprocity. Hey, Tamika. You deserve love that pours back. Conversations that refill. Friendships that feel like an exhale. I encourage you to pour where it's mutual. Invest where it's fruitful. Rest where it's peaceful. You're not required to shrink to stay supported. It's like you can clap for others and still create for yourself. You can give without guilt. And you can love without losing yourself. You've been practicing balance. Now it's time to honor it. Because all that awareness means nothing if you don't act on it, if you won't act on it. It's time to hold up the mirror, right? Reclaim the architect. Have you ever had one of those mornings where you just kind of catch your own reflection and you almost don't recognize who's staring back at you? Not because you changed physically, but because you've been living in survival mode for so long that you forgot what peace looks like on you. That was me. I can remember standing in my bathroom one day, looking in the mirror, eyes tired, soul heavy. And I just stood there and was like, girl, when did you stop choosing you? See, the thing about being everybody's builder is that you don't notice the cracks in your own house until everything starts shaking, until everything starts falling apart. Welcome in, Sherelle. You're so focused on holding it all together for everybody else that you miss out on the leaks, the loneliness, the loss that's been living rent-free inside of you. That day I was looking in the mirror. I didn't see life coach. I didn't see the creator. I didn't see the songwriter. I didn't even see the strong woman that everybody always bragged about. I saw a woman who had been helping the world heal while quietly ignoring her own wounds. And in that moment, I had to tell the truth, right? I was burnt out because life was hard, right? And truthfully, I wasn't burnt out because of how hard life was. I was burnt out because I'd been building on the wrong assignment. I thought all the times I said yes, about all the times that I had said yes when my spirit was screaming no. All the times that I had poured into people who only showed up with empty cups. They never brought anything else to the party. All the late nights of helping others birth their dreams while mine stayed unborn, unattended to. And I had to own that, not with shame, but with accountability. Because healing isn't just about forgiving other people. It's also about forgiving yourself for what you allowed when you didn't know any better. That mirror moment taught me something powerful. And it was that you can't heal what you refuse to admit is hurting. And you can't rebuild until you acknowledge what you've been neglecting. And I remember just standing there in that moment. And I was like, girl, get out your own way. It was that day I decided that I was done apologizing for outgrowing my own excuses. It was that day that I learned that sometimes God won't let you move forward until you face yourself. I learned that the mirror isn't my enemy. It's a mentor, right? It doesn't lie, but it also doesn't judge. It just asks you, are you ready to start building again? And that's the question that I want to sit with you today. Are you ready to stop waiting for permission to build the life that's already been sitting inside of you? Because reclaiming the architect means remembering that you designed things once and that you can design them again. You've got the blueprints in your spirit that have been waiting on your courage. And, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's just deciding to do it anyway. To feel the fear, but do it anyway. Now I can look at myself in the mirror without flinching. I know now that I'm not my mistakes. I am my lessons. I am both the builder and the becoming. And I think that once you start to reclaim your inner architect, once you remember that your reflection still carries revelation, something inside of you will shift. You're going to stop apologizing for your design. You stop second guessing your direction, and you finally start building, not from guilt, not from grief, but from grace. And listen, if you made it this far, I just want you to take a deep breath. And I'm talking about, y'all, a good breath, y'all, not a shallow one, but a full healing breath that fills your chest and reminds your body that I'm still here. Breathe in through your nose. Exhale from your mouth. See, this whole conversation, from backup plan to blueprint was never about shame. It's just about seeing yourself again. You've spent so much of your life being dependable that you forgot what it feels like to just be, right? To be inspired, to be supported, to be held, to wake up with energy that's not already promised to somebody else. But right here, right now, this is your reclamation, just the reclamation season, right? That you're rebuilding not because you're broken. You're rebuilding because you finally know your worth. I want you to ask yourself, where in my life have I been building for others but neglecting what God told me to create for myself? What am I ready to release? Not in anger, but in acceptance, so I can make room for my next assignment. What does alignment feel like to me now that I've remembered who I am and what I possess, what I carry? And, as you explore those questions, don't rush to answer. Sit with them. Let your spirit speak first. You are not the backup plan. You are the blueprint. You are not late. You are in divine alignment. You can build from wisdom now, not your wounds, not your past. Everything connected to your purpose will flow in peace, not pressure. I want you to do one sacred thing for yourself this week. Just one. Maybe it's sitting in silence before the world wakes up. Maybe it's lighting a candle and journaling a prayer to your future self. Maybe it's making a list of your unfinished dreams and picking one of them to start. But whatever it is, make it intentional. Right? Healing isn't a hashtag, it's a habit. And peace isn't passive, it's practiced. So spend some time remembering the thing and then do the thing. I want you guys to remember that you were never an afterthought in God's design. You were always the original draft. The blueprint of your life was drawn with divine precision. Every mistake, every heartbreak, every delay, every detour, nothing has disqualified you. It developed you. So this week, when you start to doubt yourself, I just want you to remind yourself that you are not the backup plan. Ghost, you are not the backup plan. You are the blueprint. You are the evidence that God doesn't need a replacement. He just needs you to show up and to say yes. You are not the backup plan. You are the blueprint. Now, before we part ways, let me leave you all with a little love and light. As always, I encourage you to keep breathing through the highs, the lows, and every moment in between. I want you to keep choosing peace, even when it feels just out of reach. And to know that here at the Self-Care Club, you will always be seen, always valued, and always supported. So don't be afraid to take up space, speak your truth, and make a little room for you to breathe. I love each and every one of you to life, and I am praying that your day is not just amazing, but aligned, intentional, and yes, on purpose, filled with purpose. This has been another Room to Breathe podcast, and I look forward to connecting with you all again soon. Thank you.